we don't need you anymore. I'm tired of fighting you. Pressure war. Wow, wow. Goodbye 70s. Wow, wow. Goodbye 70s.
Thing is, I didn't want to turn that off.
No, it's just too good, isn't it? It's too good, and all the little. I don't know what the term is, but the little squelchy bits and
Yeah. Hi Sue, hi Adam. It's a shame you can't join us, but I'm sure you will catch it on catch up. Oh my God, what a week! What a week! So I've had some really, really good experiences and some really crappy experiences with that album, where I've come back to revisit an album that I knew inside and out. And this one I had high hopes for. And oh my God. Do you know,
it's so good, isn't it? It's so
good.
Good.
First time I bought the sleeve, and I was like, oh yeah. And it took me a long time to spot that they're not connected, the tops and bottoms of the people. Yeah. And as I showed you earlier, Paul, look at that.
So is that the original price you paid, or is that a copy from a second-hand shop?
That I can't remember because it's so long ago.
Shall I say? So I've got, as we were talking beforehand, I've got the album somewhere and I can't find it. It's in amongst all my other records somewhere, and I think I bought it from W.H. Smith's. But I do remember, and I've got albums that I can prove this on. Human League Dairy is one of them. When you bought them in Woolworths at the Woolworths record bar, they used to put a little sticker on the inside of the sleeve, which was the date that you actually bought it from the shop. So it was another in case you lost the receipt, they could see when you actually bought it.
Yeah.
And I discovered this. I was listening to Dare, the Human League, a couple of years ago, and I was as you do with a record, handling the thing, looking at the inner sleeves and etc. And I saw this little sticker, this little Woolworth sticker on the inside, and it just brought back so many memories.
Yeah. So I've got quite a few records, and I owned a hi-fi shop for a while in the West End.
Yep.
And everything that was mine, I put a little sticker on the corner of it, so that I knew if we ever closed the shop or moved on or whatever, that I would then take it.
I've got a load of records, a load of 7-inch singles that are in a big box down behind me at the moment, and a load of those have got my surname written across the label. Because when you go to parties, right, and it would have been at this time, if I was going to a party, what were we, 15, 16 in 1982?
Yeah.
Going to parties, you didn't. The music was either on a record player or someone had done a mixtape, and so I used to go along to a party with a bunch of records that I wanted to listen to.
So on the subject of mixtapes, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's your music that you wanted played. Mixtape. I haven't even got a cassette deck anymore.
So I have. I've got one. I don't know. It used to be up there. I think it might be up in Harry's bedroom at the moment. I've got one on my Technics MIDI system that I've got down here that I play my record decks through.
Nice.
That I didn't realise is now vintage, but because I bought it in the mid-90s, it's now considered a vintage hi-fi.
Yeah.
And I've also got one in my Mark II Polo. So I've got three ways of playing cassettes. The only problem is that cassette tapes are a really bad medium to store anything, and they're really rubbish quality now.
Yeah, you've got to keep them in the fridge, which is what they do with master tapes. They keep them cryogenically frozen. So I have got
I keep my oat milk and my hummus.
Yeah. Yeah. I have got a couple of tapes of when I was on tour with an orchestra. I was leading an orchestra, and I did a solo in one in Geneva and one in Paris. And someone had captured these with proper recording gear. And I've got no way of playing them now. In the days when I used to actually exhibit a little bit of talent. My, how things have changed.
eBay is your friend for cassette players.
Yeah.
You can pick them up for really, really cheap.
Yeah. That's enough of that. Thanks, Mark. That's boasting. What's really funny is that it seems like only yesterday, and obviously it's a long time ago. So I always like to do a little bit of background on the year.
What was going on in 1982?
So the Falklands conflict.
Oh yeah, that was quite a big thing, wasn't it?
That was quite a big thing. The first computer virus. Who knew?
I didn't know.
There were barely even computers in those days. It was TDK-90. Yeah, absolutely. You will remember there was a play at the National Theatre called The Romans in Britain, much to the distress of Mary Whitehouse, because there was nudity.
Mary Whitehouse, yeah, the Romans in Britain kicked up. Was that full frontal nudity? Is that what?
Yeah, and the depiction of I think rape and gay sex.
Okay.
On stage, which clearly she didn't like.
People and their preferences, eh?
Yeah, the first CDs.
Human body, shock horror.
The first CDs were produced in Germany. ABBA made their last performance, and the Chinese population exceeded 1 billion. So not a good year for births. Only Kate Middleton and Eddie Redmayne. They're pretty good. Bad year for deaths.
I'm sure there were more than 2 people born.
Yeah, only 2 people of any note that I've heard of. Lightning Hopkins died, as did Ben Nicholson, the artist, Carl Orff, writer of Carmina Burana, Arthur Lowe, Henry Fonda, Ingrid Bergman, Pierre Balmain, and Terence Higgins died of AIDS, obviously. Films, Conan the Barbarian, a great year for films. Conan the Barbarian, Tron, First Blood, The Thing, Poltergeist, The Elephant Man, Gandhi, Sophie's Choice, Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid, and 48 Hours. And a good year for albums. Avalon.
So go back to those films quickly, Adam. I wouldn't have said that some of those films were that old, but that's a bit scary.
So what you're really saying is that you didn't think you were that old. And you are.
Yes, I am that.
Avalon, Roxy Music, The Dreaming, Kate Bush, The Number of the Beast, Rio, The Nightfly, New Gold Dream, Peter Gabriel, The Lexicon of Love, 1999, Toto 4, and the best-selling album of all time, Thriller, all came out in 1982.
Wow. It seems a little scary that Thriller is that old. I always remember that being. I remember it being the 80s, but I remember it being a bit later in the 80s than that.
And you will remember, I'm sure, that the word at school was tonight, 10:30. They're broadcasting the video,
the full-length video, 15 minutes. I think we got the full-length version, which starts off with him at the cinema with his girlfriend.
Yeah.
I think we got that on VHS somewhere in the house.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
We still have a VHS player, and talking about not having a cassette player, we do still have a VHS player.
Do you? Nice. So I was going to say why this album. It's pretty obvious why this album. It's
because it's a great album.
Yeah, and I had no idea because, like I said, there's so many albums that I've done on the show that I've brought, and that's why I tend not to suggest albums anymore, because I bring an album going, this is going to be amazing, and it turns out that actually it's shit. And this album, I thought, well, I'm glad I didn't bring this because I'm setting myself up for a big disappointment here. And from the first beat, it's like, okay, this is.
Well, I mean, it was like nothing else at the time. Obviously, Vince Clarke, we're going to talk about the genius of Vince Clarke, I'm sure. But Vince Clarke had decided that he didn't want to go on tour with Depeche Mode anymore, so he left them. And you think, oh my God, Depeche Mode had only
big thing, Ben.
And it was a massive thing for Vince Clarke to leave. But then he teamed up with Alison Moyet, so there was this electronic music that was very Depeche Mode like, because that's what they were doing, and this bluesy soulful voice. No, I was VHS all the way.
I had Betamax.
Yeah. So and Alison Moyet's voice, bluesy soulful voice, almost didn't seem like it belonged.
Adam does have a story about. We can probably save that for later in the show, maybe.
Yeah. So her voice didn't seem like it belonged on a pop song like some of the songs we're going to listen to. But the same way as Tony Hadley's voice with Spandau Ballet seemed like it was too big a voice for a pop band. That was my opinion at the time, anyway.
No, I think you're absolutely right, and I think what is amazing about this is that Alison Moyet got to this position purely because she is so brilliant. So clearly there were loads of men in music that were there because they were talented, and there were loads of women in music who were there because they were raunchy or beautiful or whatever.
Yep.
And not that Alison Moyet isn't attractive, but she did not fit the norm. And there's her and Annie Lennox that just like voices that were the best voices of the decade by a mile.
And I've been reading some stuff while we've been researching this particular album. The Alison Moyet, because she was bigger built than a lot of other female singers at the time, and she had a deeper voice than a lot of other people. She was getting quite a lot of, hate's the wrong word, but quite a lot of comments about her looks, about her how she sounded. She wasn't feminine. She wasn't this. She wasn't that. And it just doesn't matter, does it? Just doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't. And actually, I think that one of the things that's really interesting, looking at it through the lens of today, you wouldn't make any of those. You wouldn't even think any of those things. Yeah. But at that time, you know, we've got the Bangles going on, you know, and Susanna Hoffs, you know, every boy had a poster of her on his wall, and it wasn't because of the music, you know, and it you know, not a particularly good thing, and it didn't matter.
I think Debbie Harry was still on my wall at that time.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yes.
Music.
He did like to form a new band, didn't he? Every now and again. So it was quite interesting reading about this because how it got the name.
Well, the Yazoo or Upstairs at Eric's?
Upstairs at Eric's.
It was just Eric was the name of the guy whose recording studio they were in.
Yeah.
So when I first heard it, I wondered whether it was a reference to the club Eric's in Liverpool, which was a big punk club, live music venue,
right,
back in the day. So one of it was rock and stuff. But yeah, it was literally that's where they did a lot of the planning, a lot of the writing was Upstairs at Eric's.
Yeah, and actually, this album, I was obviously, you know, you kind of do the background and you look at the kind of commercial performance of the album, and it did pretty well. It went platinum in the UK, went platinum in the US. It certainly seemed to polarize opinion. So Rolling Stone only gave it a 3. Smash Hits gave it 8.5 out of 10. The Encyclopedia of Music gave it 4 stars out of 5. The Philadelphia Inquirer gave it 1 star out of 5.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's mad.
It is because and maybe it is because when this came out, this was, I guess it would have been quite a shocking album, wouldn't it? You know, a bloke on keyboards and a woman singing, and I mean, quite deep stuff.
There's some good niche, but there's some darker songs as well, and there's one song that I'm sure when we come to it, we're going to go, yeah, that was whatever he was trying to do there. maybe didn't work, but at least Vince Clarke and Alison Moyet were trying something a bit different. It was a time of experimentation, wasn't it?
Yeah. Should we have a little bit of a blast?
Have a listen to some music, really.
Yeah. So here we go. First track, Don't Go. And this is the point, isn't it? Like, now looking back at this, 2 seconds in, you're like, okay, here we go.
And interestingly, this was originally written as a B-side for Only You.
Was it?
Yeah, it wasn't meant to be a song in its own right. It was just meant to be a B-side.
Turn around when I heard sound. I I need some time to get it right. You love me so before. Yes, I'm back, don't you know? I never gonna let you go.
It's just, I mean, the bass line is just mesmerizing.
It's just fantastic, isn't it?
But also the fact that there's no, I think what music often does is it kind of gets to the end of the phrase and then you know when the next phrase is going to start. And here it's like the next phrase is moved forward to butt right up against it. So there's no kind of breathing space in this. It's just got this amazing pace.
So it was Alison Moyet herself, because I found something that she wrote something on her website on the 40th anniversary of the album coming out, and she did a track by track, her recollection of what was going on at the time.
Right.
And she said when we recorded that Only You decided to release it, we needed a B-side, so Vince wrote Don't Go very quickly. The original melody was much straighter, like a speak and spell song, so Depeche Mode's first album. So I shaped it with my Canvey Delta styling. So Canvey, obviously, Canvey Island.
Island, yeah.
And then Daniel Miller, who was the head of Mute Records, who was the record label, came in to listen and suggested adding an instrumental bar. And then once it was finished, they decided then that it was too strong to just be a B-side, so it went on the album. Yeah, and it was the opening song of the album. And what an opening song! Yeah,
I mean, it sets the bar really, really high, doesn't it? And I just think. Well, let's have a bit more. This is just, I could quite happily just put this on at the beginning and go off and have a cup of coffee.
Yeah, absolutely. I have definitely been on dance floors more recently than 1982, dancing to that and giving it that go and the arms up in the air.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, it's something. I mean, my daughter is 23, and she listens to this kind of thing and just goes, "Isn't the music of today shit?" Because she's big into Fleetwood Mac, big into Joni Mitchell, big into the Beatles, big into this kind of stuff. Is right in that sweet spot for her. And every time she gets a bit big for her boots, I say, I grew up in the 80s. And that draws a line under the conversation because it was just an amazing time, wasn't it?
It was. But I would suggest that maybe your daughter's not listening to the right music from today, because there's some really good stuff out there.
There's a really good band based in Reading, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah, Skunkworm, they're called. No, so there's a really good band, and it's interesting. So I've got this here. This is totally unrelated, but this is a band called Yang.
Yeah.
Who the guitarist is the son of a friend of mine, and that's their first physical release. And they are making some really good music, and it's they call themselves punk disco, something like that. And it's just it's worth a listen. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah, so track 2 pieces. This, I mean, one of the things that I think you said earlier on about the genius of Vince Clarke, the way, given the kind of the sparsity of things at his fingertips for the album, so it's basically synth and a bit of other stuff and more. Yeah. And
maybe something like that.
Yeah.
Just have some of Harry's kit in front of me here.
The sophistication of this track is just mind blowing, isn't it? This is the kind of sophistication that you would expect from, and this sounds terribly snobby to say, from a classical musician, not from a pop musician.
Yes, absolutely. Actually, and what Alison Moyet had to say was, this is a Vince song, and she really liked it straight away when he played it on his guitar to her. So the first time she heard it, it was just Vince Clarke singing it with a guitar, and then you think what it became.
Yeah. So here we go, 2 pieces.
Write me a letter, a face in the hall.
I mean, the thing about that is that there's that long intro, and there's a bit of stuff going on underneath that plinky plonky synth, and it sets up such a strong beat that you know exactly where she's going to come in.
Yeah.
And then she doesn't. And it's like they're totally at odds with each other, the vocal and the backing. And I just think that's an amazing juxtaposition of those 2 elements, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really clever, isn't it? It's really clever. But let's go back to what I was saying about the music being the electronic sparse. It's got a good beat to it and all this stuff going on, but then her voice doesn't seem like it belongs sometimes with that sort of music. She should be in front of a 6 or 7 piece band with some horns in the background and
or an orchestra.
Or an orchestra, yeah.
I have a story about that.
Do you? Are you going to tell us a story, Adam?
Well, yeah, yes.
You look like Roddy Corbett when you adjusted your glasses to tell a story. Then
now, so my first wife was a mandolinist. Well, she still is a mandolinist, but she's not my wife anymore. And she was performing on the global premiere of a piece written by David Byrne, the frontman from the Talking Heads. And he was conducting an orchestra, and Alison Moyer was providing the vocals. And she chatted to my wife. And then I was in M&S in the underwear department with my wife the very next day. And Alison Moyer saw my wife Sue and came running over and gave her a hug and said, "How are you? It's lovely to see you. Fancy bumping into you here." And they're having a chat. And Sue says, "This is my husband, Adam." And now I would have been in my mid-20s at this point.
Yeah.
And she was like the biggest thing of my childhood growing up in terms of talent. So Sue said, "This is Adam, my husband." And I went, and I couldn't talk. And I was completely starstruck. And it was just simultaneously the most wonderful and most embarrassing experience that I'd had up until that point.
Yeah. See, I mean, I 100% relate to that reaction to meeting someone, or unexpectedly for a start. So you're not prepared for it. But I don't know that would make any difference. And Sarah, my wife, will tell you the first time we ever met the boys from Idols. I'd like to say I was a witty repartee, and it was so good to meet you. But me and Harry were both like, hello. But it's got to a point now where this is a terrible name drop, but I'm going to do it anyway. So on my way back home from seeing West Ham play Newcastle on Monday night, and Dev, the bassist from Idols, is a Newcastle fan, and he was at the same game. I saw that on his Instagram. So I just sent him a message saying, "What do you think of the game?" And I spent my train journey home having a chat via message with
nice
about football. It's just a bit bizarre. Anyway,
I had Ricky Gervais like a comment of mine once on Twitter. Yeah, not quite the same, I know, but
should we have a song, because otherwise we're going to run out of time, Adam?
We are. Bad Connection.
I love this one.
This morning, the curtains are shut. I'd bring you
interesting use of kind of moving up through the keys as we get to that bit. But I mean,
it's just perfect pop, isn't it?
it is perfect pop. But I think that the point about pop in quotes is that often it gets a bad rap as being quite vacuous and shallow. And actually, this isn't. This is a boppy number, and it is poppy, but it's still got quite a lot of kind of sophistication and polish to it, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And my favourite bit of this song is towards the end, and the story behind it is that Vince Clarke just set up a microphone and then dialed the operator 100 as we used to when we all had and then just didn't say anything. So the bit you hear at the end with the woman saying, "Hello, stop playing around with the phones," that's actually the operator he phoned. And
right.
Just he phoned the operator and then just didn't say anything.
I was hoping to catch it then. It must have been a bit before that.
Yeah, just before that. Yeah, no, it's just very funny.
So apparently, Alison Moore has a personal connection to the telephone industry. Her mother once worked as an operator on international calls.
Yes,
so
she was on the. It says here she was on the French exchange when you couldn't call abroad direct. You had to go through the operator.
Well, there you go. There you go.
Different times. You say honestly, you'd say that. It's going to sound very old now. You say that to kids today, they wouldn't believe you.
No, there's that fantastic video, isn't there, of kids when they give them an old telephone, a rotary telephone, and say you've got to dial the number on here, and they'll give you like $50 or whatever if you manage it.
I remember as a kid, something else now you wouldn't even think about now. We had a party line on our phone.
Yeah,
when we shared a line with someone
next door,
someone who lived up the road.
Yeah.
So if you picked the phone up to make a phone call, and you heard voices, they were on the phone, so you couldn't use it. You had to put the phone down again.
Yeah. It beggars belief, doesn't it? Absolutely beggars belief how far we've come.
Different times.
Yeah. So I before E, except after C.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's fair to say that the first 3 tracks on this album are devastatingly good.
Yeah.
And now,
and then Vince had a moment, didn't he?
I think possibly, it was that era. Look at the, everyone's got a glass table, so he'd ingested a little bit too much powder, and he thought this was a good idea.
But also to make this track, he would have actually been cutting up bits of tape. He wouldn't necessarily have been doing it digitally. He might have actually
splicing and stuff. Yeah.
But it's Vince, Eric, the guy who owned the studios, and Eric's mum reading bits of text, and apparently they were reading the manuals for some of the equipment in the studio.
Right. So here we go. I before E, except after C.
I would stop because there will always be for 2. There will always inside. You can feel the outside. You can see the difference. Inside, stop. Inside, difference. Outside, out, stop. Inside, you can feel the difference. Feel that you can difference. You can see and feel the difference. You can stop, and see that you can stop. You can see the difference. Dragons, the policeman knew, are supposed to breathe fire, and occasionally get themselves slaughtered. He decided. They were definitely not. He decided. Stop. Definitely not. Stop. Not. Definitely. They would.
Yeah. Now it makes sense with you saying that about the snippets from the album.
So what's interesting is on later versions of this, and I think on the CD version, this track's not on it.
No, I saw that, and it wasn't actually on the download version that I originally was doing.
It's interesting. Shall we just go with that? It's interesting. I mean, if I when I did listen to it on CD, I always used to skip that track. I mean, it's just it's a hard listen.
It is, but and I think that this is the thing. There are lots of there are lots of bands and individual performers that you think, well, they don't take themselves too seriously. But during the 80s, that was not a time when people didn't take themselves too seriously. There's a great video clip of Angie Bowie and Mick Karn doing a performance, which is just the ultimate of pomposity, and people up themselves. And this is a bit like that, isn't it? It's like, you know, I'm a genius. And you're right, he absolutely is a genius. It means I can do anything and it'll work.
It's a big FU. I can do this. Like, I'm putting an album out, so I'm going to put it on there.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So moving swiftly on, Midnight. Apparently, this is the song that Alison Moyet auditioned with.
Yes, yeah, she wrote it when she was 18, and she was a big Janis Joplin fan. So it was with Janis Joplin in mind, maybe as a person that might want to sing a song like this.
Yeah, and apparently when Vince Clarke took Only You to Depeche Mode, and Depeche Mode said, we don't want that song, and he said, well, screw you, I'm gonna leave and do my own thing. So he placed an advert in the Melody Maker saying he needed a vocalist, and that's how he found Alison Moyet. So here we go.
Midnight, it's raining outside. It must be soaking wet. Everyone is sleeping tight. God knows I've tried my best, but darling, you know it looks bad. Just lost the best thing that I ever had. Well, still I don't know why I didn't want it. Too late now, he's gone to say, baby, oh no, can't leave me now. To think about it, please, 'cause I love you, I need you. I should have thought of that. Oh, why did you know? Yeah. Oh, why did you know?
There's a very 80s thing technique, and you don't tend to see it so much anymore, which is where you've got almost this random rhythm going on.
Yep.
And then it overlays with, in this case, the vocals over the top of it, and the two are not connected at all.
No.
And gradually they fall into sync,
and it
makes sense.
It just works. Yeah. I mean, what a voice.
Yeah, I mean, just devastating.
Part of that song. I can imagine that song being on her first solo album as well, with a piano in the background rather than the synths. It would have worked just as well on either album. So yeah, that is brilliant.
Yeah, beautiful, and really showcases her voice. And I think that one of the things, because it's so sparse from a sound perspective, you really get to hear what she's doing. So often singers that don't have great voices, there's a lot of backing, and the voice is kind of another instrument in the melee. And this is very much a showcase for her vocal ability, isn't it? Yeah,
and she talks about this song. She says she wrote it when she was 18, but she auditioned for another artist who was in a all she says is a recently dissolved band that had national success, and they were looking for a female singer. So she was introduced to him, sang this song, and his feedback was, "You look like a bloke." And that was the feedback. So she then took it to Vince Clarke and said, "What about this for this album?" And he went, "Yeah, go on then. That's absolutely fantastic."
Yeah,
you just got to find the right person, haven't you? Find the right person.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, just another great song, and that's the thing with this album, with the exception of the experimental track "I Before E Except Off the Sea." There's not a bad track on here, is there? No. There's no filler. Absolutely, they're all here for a reason. So, In My Room, bit slower.
A bit slower and a little bit controversial in places because of its use of the Lord's Prayer as well. But yeah.
Who do you think is it?
Our Father. Who art in heaven. Hallowed be thy name.
I stand alone and watch the clock. I only wait for it to stop. And in the room, locked up inside me,
Thy kingdom come.
cut out magazines remind me. I sit and wait alone
Thy will be done.
in my room. And in my room, against the wall, there is a picture.
It's just, I just love the in a very kind of contemporary classical music style. I love the fact that the gaps are as important as the bits where there's something going on.
Yeah.
It's just, it's so sophisticated. The use of rhythm of putting these two different things and then kind of blending them and then moving them apart. It's just incredible.
It's really good, isn't it? And she said that this was the hardest song to sing live. She just couldn't stay in tune when singing it live.
Mm.
All of the others were okay, but yeah, this was the one that was just a real bugger to sing live.
Yeah, and interestingly, when I was in the hi-fi industry, I met a guy that was a bass player, a session bass player, and I had spoken about Alison Moyet and how amazing she is, and he said, yeah, she gets terrible stage fright though, so often she doesn't perform at her best live.
Yeah,
which
it's a bit. You don't think of people who are making their living from singing being afraid of actually going on stage and doing what they do.
No, but I guess that, you know, it can come to anybody, can't it?
Yeah.
But I'm glad she perseveres.
Yes, oh, absolutely.
So that brings side one to an end, and just a great way to round it out, because different to what's gone before. And then you flip it over, and then what a stonking start to.
Well, I mean, this is the song, isn't it? This is the song. Alison Moyet said the song that Vince had all to prove with is all he'll ever need as proof.
Yeah, nice.
So yeah.
Looking from the window above, it's like a story of love. Can you hear me? Came back only yesterday, moving farther away. Won't you leave me? All I needed was the love you gave. All I needed for another day. And all I ever knew. Only you. Sometimes when I think of a name, when it's only a game, and I need you, listen to the words that you say. It's getting harder to stay. When I see.
Yeah, absolutely. From the first note, I mean, it's just like so rich and gorgeous, that voice, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just, it's a great song, isn't it? It's a great song.
It is a great song, and it is probably his best song, and probably the best song on the album. It's not the one that I like the most.
No, that's a good point. I if we think about what he was doing, so it was written while he was still with Depeche Mode.
Yeah, and
I think the Depeche Mode song that it's most similar to is "See You."
Yeah,
it's a similar sort of pace. I think I'm from what I can remember of "See You." I'm trying. I think it's very similar in style, but it is brilliant, and obviously been covered a number of times. Been Flying Pickets, obviously.
Yeah, the following year. It's Christmas #1, wasn't it?
Ba-da, ba-da-da-da. Obviously, I wasn't in the flying picket, so there was
could have been.
There was one of the same haircut as me and you.
Yeah, you could have been with that voice, mate.
Yeah, thanks.
But and I think that one of the things that's so nice about that is that it's a completely different rendition of the song, and it showcases it as being a good song because it sort of ports very well to other mediums, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it was also featured recently, 2022, in the Christmas ad for McDonald's, a version by Becky Hill.
Yes.
So so it's obviously one of those songs that people do like covering, do like recording. I think it's a sign of a good song, that if other people like singing it as well.
Yeah, and so despite the fact that one report is that he found Moye from an advert in Melody Maker. I've got a note here that says, with his departure from Depeche Mode imminent, Clark was looking for a female vocalist to sing on this track. He told Song Facts how he found Moye. The first time I heard her sing, she was in a punk band called The Vandals, and my best friend, Rob, he was the guitarist with The Vandals, and they played one of the local pubs. When he saw her a couple of times after that, she sang with an R&B band. So finally, as a result of that, he thought, she's got a great voice. I'd like her to demo this for me. And that was kind of the start.
Great name for a punk band, The Vandals, as well. Like that.
So next track, Goodbye 70s. This is my favourite song from the album.
This is brilliant. Yeah,
I just absolutely love this. So she was a 17-year-old punk rocker when she wrote this. It just a beautiful, well, not beautiful, amazing, fantastic song. Oh, sorry. Just love it, absolutely love it.
So the lyrics there, it's interesting you stop there. So fighting in the fashion war, because reading what she has to say about this song. So she had a bit of a if you've seen the film Quadrophenia, you'll know what she's talking about. It's her bellboy moment. So she was still a punk, and she bumped into one of her mates outside a station, the tube station, wearing, as she says, his new frills and frippery. Because New Romantics, all of the fashion that was coming with New Romantics, she was still in their punk gear. All her mates were dressing up in the New Romantic gear, a little bit better dressed. And so she started to think, hang on a minute, where am I going? Do I want to be a punk all my life, or do I want to do something else? And this last paragraph here, where she talks about how she was feeling, what she was doing when she wrote it. So 1978, I had a job at the time as a photocopy operator in that London city. In between sticking my head on the Xerox for selfies, I wrote the song in scornful huff, slumped like a teenage Kevin Heap at my desk. They didn't take up my 3-month option, incidentally. They knew what they were doing. So you're just in this, this job where she's got, basically the job was to make copies of things. I remember the photocopy department of my first job.
Yeah.
You wanted something copied, you had to send it off to a different department.
Yeah, but interesting that I don't often think much about the punk era, although it was so pivotal to the development of what came after in terms of music. I guess I was just a little bit too young, because punk was kind of dead by this point. It was a very short window of punk being the thing. But I remember watching and you will no doubt remember this, the film Jubilee.
Yep.
Yeah, and that kind of apocalyptic punk world it was incredibly shocking, wasn't it? Because all of the kind of the paradigms and the norms of my cozy Middle England upbringing just completely evaporated. And there were punks in my town, and seeing them, with the spiky, brightly coloured hair and the leather jacket with the Tipp-Ex on the back and all this kind of thing was just, it used to pull me up short when I saw this. Not that I was scared. It's just like, geez, that's just amazing.
Yeah. I grew up in southeast London, and there were a fair few punks about, and the part of southeast London, that North Kent, southeast London borders that I was in, was it wasn't a nice place sometimes. We're in the same town that I went to school was the headquarters of what was at the time the British movement, I think.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of stuff going on, shall we say. And punk had a big effect on me. So 76, 77, that Jubilee year, when with the Sex Pistols and God Save the Queen and all that sort of stuff. And as you say, Jubilee and the Great Rock and Roll Swindle, all of that stuff. I loved it. It was just this was my thing because
it was very fresh and new, wasn't it?
Yeah, because the older people didn't like it. Well, look at what are they doing? What do they look like? Perhaps the same way that I talk about younger people now sometimes. But yeah, Jubilee was a big watch for me because Toyah was in it, and Toyah was first live gig was Toyah at Hammersmith Odeon in July 1982.
So that Tim's mum lives in the same town as Toyah and Robert Fripp.
So is it Pusey? Is it Pusey? That sort of Pershore. Oh, yeah, that's it.
From Worcestershire. And he said that he went to a concert, the village hall. I think that maybe Tim's mum had arranged, and there was like Tim's mum, and then Tim, and then a spare seat because Robert doesn't like anyone sitting next to him, and then Robert Fripp, and then Toyah. And they were next to him, and he said that, they were very nice, but space.
So one of my very good friends, Matt, a couple of years ago, got me one of these, because certain people do the thing where you send them some details and they do a video.
A video for you, yeah.
So he got me a video from Toyah for my birthday, and she is a little bit bonkers these days. I still love her to bits. I don't necessarily like the music she does.
So what do you mean these days? Is that something new?
Yeah, but he sent me this video that she'd sent him, and the best bit of it is at the end, just as she's wrapping up and saying "Happy birthday, Paul," blah blah blah. Robert Fripp walks down the stairs behind her, and she swings the camera around, and she goes, "It's Paul's birthday," and there's Robert Fripp going, "Happy birthday, Paul," and he's like proper West Country.
Yeah.
What he's got, just brilliant. It's Robert Fripp wishing me a happy birthday.
Yeah. I think you can die happy now, can't you? Yeah. Right. So Tuesday.
No, it's Friday.
It is Friday. You're quite right. Another kind of danceable, upbeat kind of track. They're all good. I just end up repeating myself on the album. Let's have a burst.
Woman of 30, seeing the sun, packed up a suitcase, starting to run, looking for someone, looking for love. Pack up and drive away, pack up sensation gradually dawning. A man in a gray suit is still I'm calling. Pack up and drive away, away. Pack up and drive away.
Not often that you get a pop song written in a minor key, is it? And
Nice.
it's I mean, it's a bit grim in some ways, you know, story about someone running away from life, you know.
Yeah. So what's interesting is that Alison Moyer, when she was talking about it to her fans on the 40th anniversary, she said that her and Vince never told each other what their songs were about. So when they wrote a song, they didn't ever, you know, they never asked what the song was about, and they also never told the other person what it's about, which I don't know. It seems a bit odd to me, but yeah, up to them. And she says a woman of 30 must have seemed very grown up to them at the time.
Mm.
And then she goes on to talk about, and this is interesting because it backs up some of what you've been saying, Adam. I like the Englishness of Vince's melodies. They didn't really follow any contemporary template, musical shapes that were logical in their structure.
Mm. Yeah, and I think what is really really interesting about this is that when you listen to the kind of how the chords change, he's got an amazingly fresh way of harmonizing the melodies that he's come up with, and I love the fact that often it pushes the mood of the song as well as the melody line in a different direction to what you expect it to be. Yeah, so another great song, not one of the best songs on the album, but there's no padding here, is there?
No,
you could perfectly happy listen to that song on repeat on a desert island. So Winter Kills, and I do want to keep up the pace in terms of how we do this, because I would actually quite like to have a little burst of Situation.
Oh, well, yes, it'd be rude not to, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So Winter Kills. I thought there's definite shades of Perfect Day in this.
Yes. Yeah.
So I wouldn't say that it's plagiarized it, but it's clearly been quite heavily influenced by it, hasn't it? Oh, what a perfect day.
Green in your love on bright days. You grew sun blind. You thought me unkind to remind you how winter kills, lost in daydreams. You drove too fast and got nowhere. You rode on half fan.
I think that the thing that is really nice about this album is that there's quite a breadth of styles here, isn't there? You know, quite a breadth of sounds. So it's like when you go from one to the next, there's a real feeling of freshness rather than that kind of uniformity to how the album sounds.
Yeah. Yeah, I say so. Alison Moyer was playing the piano on this track, and she said Vince Clarke was actually amazed that she just freestyled the piano, because he would have to program everything. He would have to get if he was going to use a piano or keyboard, he was going to have to practice and then program that particular melody that he wanted to use, and then use that on the track. Whereas she just played the piano. But she also talks about the fact whenever she plays the piano or writes a song on the piano, she only ever writes slow songs because she doesn't like practicing. So she just has to play really slowly because that's the only way she can do it.
But I do think that and this always amazes me, is that Alison Moyer, for the most part, you associate her as a vocalist, not as an instrumentalist. And I think what's fantastic is when you start to delve and you realize that these people, it's like when you see a video of Paul McCartney, you know, it's like you assume that he kind of plays the piano, and he does, and he plays the piano really well, and he plays the guitar really well, and he plays the bass really well, and he plays the drums really well, you know. And back in the USSR, he played the drums. And it's like these people, they're using these instruments as a tool to express themselves.
Yeah.
The kind of the technical stuff. It's not like she's not pretending to be Vladimir Ashkenazi or someone, you know. She's just going, okay, here's how I kind of want this to sound, and this is going to be a backing for my. And it's incredibly creative, isn't it?
Yeah. So she says she writes the faster songs she writes on guitar, and the slower ones she writes on piano. Interesting you mentioned Paul McCartney, because I was fortunate enough to see Paul McCartney thanks to a very good friend of mine who came up trumps with a couple of tickets a couple of days before the gig, just before Christmas, and it was absolutely superb. How someone of his age is on stage for almost 3 hours doing what he does, and it's just brilliant. And he brought out Ringo Starr, so I've seen what's left of the Beatles play live together. So that's another big tick for me.
Yeah. I mean, have you watched Get Back?
No, not all of it. I've seen some of it, but yeah,
it's worth subscribing to Disney Plus just to watch it, because the full enormity of the talent of these people comes through. It's just, you know, they go into a studio where I've got 3 notes as an idea. Wow, it's just amazing.
So I was just laughing at.
Yeah, who have you not seen?
Before anybody else comes. So who have I not seen, Andrew? I've not seen Yazoo or Alison Moyet. I have seen Depeche Mode, but I haven't seen Yazoo or Alison Moyet live. There you go. There's 2 for you.
Yet,
yeah. I'm unlikely to see Yazoo, to be honest, but it's still a possibility.
So the last song on the original release. Oh no, yes, it is. Yeah, Bring Your Love Down, and a great way to round out the album.
Yeah, I do like a brackets in a song title as well. Bring Your Love Down, open brackets. Didn't I? Those brackets. Yeah.
It adds that little bit of context to it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just a mega way to round out the album.
It's another great example of a pop song, isn't it?
It is, and you know,
really well.
And it does. And there were a few albums that do this that we've covered on the show. So Toto 4 was one of them, and Stop Making Sense, Talking Heads is one of them, and Rumours is one of them, where when you get to the last track, you have an almost insatiable urge to turn the record over and put it back on the first side again. And actually, lots of albums don't achieve that because they're not conceived well as an album. They're just a collection of songs. And this is like a really, really good album, isn't it?
Yep. So you turn it back over and then skip I before.
Yeah. So when it was re-released, there were two more songs put on the album, weren't there? The Other Side of Love. Well, in fact, I Before You Except After Sea was removed and replaced with The Other Side of Love, which is kind of quite good.
Yeah.
And Situation, which is
Situation was a B-side, wasn't it?
Was it?
It was a B-side, I believe. But yeah, it's a B-side of Only You. But in the US, they flipped it and they made Situation the A-side, and Only You was the B-side.
Oh.
But Situations a fantastic song.
It's mega. So let's round out with this. So thank you everyone in the audience. Well, thank you, Paul. First of all, what a fantastic choice. You can tell I'm absolutely buzzing. It's just
I've enjoyed listening to it over the last few weeks. Yeah.
Best week ever. Everyone in the audience, thank you so much for joining. This has been fantastic. Thank you all for your input. Everyone needs to go away now and have a listen to this album for next week. I haven't got a show next week, but back the following week with, hang on, let me tell you what it is. I'm being joined by Helen Wybrants, and we're doing Thin Lizzy.
Okay.
Nice. So that'll be fun. So have a great weekend, everyone. And here's Situation from Yazoo.